Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. Have you ever wondered how to discover the things you didn't know you didn't know? I didn't know how to do that, but now I
I
know
didn't know that either.
I did that, and now I did that. That was
What
a
do
kind of
we
a
know
tongue
if we
twister.
didn't know? Yeah.
I'm surprised that went as smooth as it did, coming off the tongue at I don't know
Yeah.
9:02 a.m.
902.
on a Sunday morning. But
I know.
we're here. We're on YouTube because we're still on hiatus from Facebook because they forced it. So if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do that on our Wake Up with Giants on, on YouTube because Facebook is feeling sad. But we're on a
Yeah.
tribe of giants. So if you ever get on Facebook and just decide to find the best tribe in the world, you just click on a tribe of giants and answer a couple questions, and we'll let you in if you're amazing, which you probably are.
We might we
It's like
might let you in anyway,
yeah,
right?
even if you're not amazing, it's kind of like screening phone calls. But we'll let you in because you're a giant. Everyone's a giant.
Glad I made the cut.
Yes, it was close. There was
Well,
deliberation.
yeah, well, about that.
Well, that's what this is about. I'm getting kicked out.
Yeah.
She does make you look good, Nick. We should have Capri on more often. Hi, Capri.
She does make me look good. We got two incredible guests today. We got Capri,
Yeah,
who's a phenomenal
yeah.
giant.
You had Capri.
She'll be in and out as we go. And then we got Mr. Phillip Weech. Can I introduce you, Phillip? I'll do my best here.
Yeah, no, that'll be great.
One thing I know about Phillip is we haven't known each other very long, but it feels like we've known each other forever to me. You know, Phillip is a man of his word. And when I say that, his word is what gets created in the world. And we're going to talk about that today. So, in every way, Phillip is aligning himself with what he says and coming from a space of being that thing before he speaks it and then putting it out in the world where it becomes that creation powerfully. So some of the things that he's created, he's got an incredible family. The best choice he says he's ever made is being married to Sophie Ann Weech, who I hope is watching today. And he's a father to 4 children, kind of like me. So I got 4 kids. And the most important thing, and this is important for everybody to know, he's a recovering CPA who's turned life and business coach. So, yeah.
The first time I meet Phillip, I'm like, man, my dad's a CPA. That's the worst. What do you do for a living? I'm a CPA.
Was a CPA.
Yeah.
Was a CPA. Well, the beauty of what we're doing here, and especially your picture, is looking at what you're creating. You've created that image that we used as your profile pic for this. You just really just go about and are intentional with your life, and you create it by the way you say it, and beyond that, by the way you be it. And so we're grateful to have you on the show. Did I miss any? I know I missed a lot. There's a lot to you that I haven't hit on, but was that adequate?
No, that was great. That was
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
Because what's really going to matter is what we dive into next. Now, I'm a
That's
little
right.
nervous, honestly.
I'm nervous too. What are we going to talk about? This is going to be good.
Well, we'll start out like we do with everybody, is kind of give us a little background on you, where you started. What was your life like when life began? You came into this world. What was the family dynamic? Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born in a small town in rural Arizona.
Yeah.
Talking, a couple thousand people in the town. Grew up doing lots of farm work and going to a small school. I was into sports back then, and because it was a small school, I was able to pretty much participate in any of the sports I chose. So I got to play football and basketball and baseball competitively, and that was really fun. I also had 4 siblings, so there's 5 kids of us in total, and my dad was a CPA as well, an accountant. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, was always there after school, and we'd get home and have a snack for us and be there for us, help with homework. had a great time. But yeah, I grew up in a small community, got to participate in a lot of different activities. And that was kind of the dynamic. We were very religious as well. So we learned a lot about spirituality as far as my parents understood it. And we were taught that. And really fun little community that was very tight knit and everyone watching out for each other. And it was very cool, kind of like our own little tribe of giants in that small town.
Yeah. Did you
Sounds
feel
delightful.
Did you feel like your life was kind of a shoe-in, a walk-on? Like you could play any sport you want, and then Philip decides I'm going to be a CPA, walk on, right? And it's like,
yeah,
or did
much.
You have some effort behind that?
No, there's definitely effort, right? There was still a lot of talent there, but being a smaller population, it made it a little bit easier to make the cut. In fact, even in a small town, I was always smaller than most people. I'm only about 5'7", but I found out really early on that with a little extra effort, you could really make up for that quickly. And so that kind of became the name of my game was I'll just put in the extra effort to get the things that I want. And that always seemed to work out in life. If you want it more than others and you're willing to put in the work, you can pretty much achieve anything you want.
Yeah. So it is an effort thing. I mean, part of the book when I wrote about the giant, he was born to a family of giants, and that sounds like your dynamic, right? But there's still this learning to step into your own power, like with your own effort and still becoming who you can be on your own, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe each one of us has desires that are within us that kind of script the unique narrative that is each of our lives. And so growing up, it's easy to look around and be a little self-conscious and think, oh, this is how they do this, or this is how that person does this. And people look up to them. So I want to do that too. But that doesn't necessarily lead us down the authentic path for us. Yeah. So learning to hear that inner voice and see what that path is for each of us, and then trust that that's not just okay or good enough, but it's more than enough. It's like the perfect path for us, and being able to be, comfortable in our own skin, so to speak.
I get the sense that you've had. I think about the journey of most people is you can look at other people from the outside and really think, like you just said, oh, they just had it made. They had it easy. There really wasn't as much effort as I'm going through to get there. Sure. And so I would wonder within yourself, did you have dialogue within yourself that was somewhat defeating? Did you ever have down days? Did you ever feel like, I don't know if I can do this?
Absolutely. No, definitely. I remember starting high school. In fact, junior high, and this is probably similar for all of us, right? Yep. Junior high was a time when I was really questioning myself, wondering if I had any worth. It seemed like everybody else around me knew what was going on in life. It's like everyone else had gotten the memo, right? And I was kind of on the inside or the outside looking in. And it wasn't a fun way to exist, right? It's not a fun way to be, second guessing yourself and questioning your own self-worth. Yeah. And I remember in high school, when I first started out, sports kind of became my first feeling like maybe I did have some value, because I started to excel in sports the end of my 8th grade year and beginning of my freshman year. And it was my first kind of stepping stone to realize that, hey, I really like doing sports and I'm doing really well at them. And now people are kind of praising me and stuff. And it wasn't an authentic self-worth, but it started to help me see, hey, there is some value here. And it got me on the path of realizing what is my value, and then getting to the point where it doesn't come from what other people think, which I don't really even know what other people think anyways. I just know what I think they think.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But it kind of got me out of that doldrum of there's no self-value here, and now there is value. And now what does it come from? Is it from praise? Is it from accolades? What distinguishes that? And over time, I really landed on it's what I determine it to be.
Yeah, just that one awareness of thinking what other people think you think they're thinking. I don't know if I said that right either. Yeah. That was like the introduction.
Like the world we live in, right?
I was like, wait a second. Just knowing that, and that took me 40 years of my life. Well, to figure that out, and to be like, wait a second, people are only thinking what I think they're thinking. and just that has changed everything for me.
That's awesome. And we'll figure it out, and then we have to keep reminding ourselves, right? Because we'll get back into that even after we realize
We'll
it.
come up with stories of like, well, they're thinking this. I just know it. Like, it's maybe even quicker than that. Like, there's that instant judgment that's all they think. That's it. They think I'm a failure.
Yeah,
Wait,
absolutely.
they might not think that at all. They might just make a face. They got something in their eye, like, but they're
reminds me
they're
of,
thinking that guy's amazing. I wish I could be like him. But we just thought that look was like, oh, they think I'm terrible. They think I'm the worst. Never going to succeed. We make up these huge stories in life. And so I'm glad you got to figure that out earlier. That's one thing I wish I could go back and learn earlier.
Yeah.
This reminds me of Byron Katie. She talks about that, right? That you're projecting the movie that you're playing in your mind and judging people for the movie that you're creating in your mind.
That's right.
And they have no idea what's even playing. They don't even know what's on the screen.
Yeah, that's a great characterization of that. Exactly.
Yeah. And we'll talk about Byron Katie here too in a bit, because that's something that you're passionate about creating.
Absolutely.
So yeah, now's the time to dive down the rabbit hole, because Ryan just opened the door.
Surprise
to those stories. So let's go. share some additional thoughts around that. So this projecting of the world as we see it in our mind into the worlds of others. Can you kind of go into that?
I can, and I'd love to share something. This is just perfect how this is all working out, because I opened a book right before this started just to kind of pass the time. Yeah. And the quote that I opened up to from this book called The Way of Mastery, it says this. Are you ready? It's right in line with what we're talking about, just out of happenstance or synchronicity. I and I alone am the source of what I experience and perceive. I am not a victim of the world I see. Everything I experience, I have called to myself, plain and simple. No excuses, no ifs, ands, or buts. That is the way it is.
Mm.
And that can kind of show up as bad news. It's like, wait, I'm the one responsible.
Son of a.
I just said double damn it right in my mind. Like,
but then at the same time, it's like, well, if I'm the one that brought this, that means I'm also in control of changing that and creating something different. So it starts as bad news, but turns very quickly into the best news possible.
You're the sum total of all of your thoughts, and the actions. Like right now is exactly where you chose to be. That is kind of, if you could get your mind around that sometimes is you're like, oh crap, because we want to blame like circumstance or others for our own failures. It's sometimes it's just easier to do.
It is easier, and it takes the blame off of us, which at first seems like there's a benefit there. If I can blame somebody else for the situation I'm not excited about or happy with, then it kind of, in my mind, lets me off the hook. But there's no power there. There's no creation for what we want. It's just, blaming someone else for my misery, but I'm still in misery. So what's the point? Mm-hmm. And the alternate is I can actually create a different state of mind from which will spring all of my actions aligned with that state of mind. And I can actually pull myself out of wherever I've gotten myself into.
How fast can you do that?
Well, the mindset can change as quickly as you're willing to do it. Right?
That was a loaded question. I knew that answer.
Yeah. It doesn't always happen as
well. I timed it the other day, and
yeah, I've noticed the more we work on that, though, the quicker we get there. The shorter time we spend stuck in those the prisons of the mind, and the stronger our mental muscles get to pull us out of it and back into our creation.
That right there reminds me of a Steve Hardison. He's gotten excellent. You talked about the way of mastery. He has mastered just that. He still feels those things. He still feels emotion. The guy's not a robot. You think he's like Terminator, but in reverse, like amazing, and
Terminator in reverse. He creates things instead of.
I love that.
Yeah. He's the Terminator in reverse.
The big T.
Sorry, Steve.
He's probably laughing about that right now. Watch.
Oh shoot! But it's true, because it's like those feelings come up. He has these experiences, and then he flips the switch faster.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things he's taught me, and he teaches everybody this, is, I don't know about you two, but for me, when I wake up in the morning, I just don't show up the way I want to show up, right? I wake up into the world being how I am, And normally it's not how I want to be. And so there's things we can do to actually change that, to create a different context for the rest of the day to go. We don't have to live the day just how we're thrown to be that morning.
I've got something I want to throw up on the wall, not throw up, obviously. but let me just pull this up because I was processing this thought. Keep talking for a minute while I grab this.
I like the Steve the Lovinator from Alex. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Because that's the way that I experienced Steve the first time. The only time I've met him, in Santa Monica. We created the experience, and through that he didn't know me, he didn't know my wife, he didn't know us other than from the Giants, but both of us walked away from that feeling like we've known Steve for forever because of the way he was, just open, interested in what we were doing, ask us questions, how we met, where we're from. That's how I experienced Steve as well. So that was great, Alex. That makes me laugh.
I'm gonna pull this up. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I was gonna throw in loving intensity. It's kind of how I summed Steve up when I first met him. It's just loving intensity, like the light of the sun, man, coming at you.
That's the loving intensinator.
Yes,
he's all of it. In
a red leather jacket and red suede shoes.
Yeah, and no gun, just a heart gun. Like, pew, I love you, I love you, I love you. So as you're talking about experience here, I was drawing this out yesterday. So I put this together for a client, and the thought is that we have events in our lives. I don't know if you can see this. Let me see if I can zoom in. We'll try something here. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay. So in this, we have events, whether they're internal or external. We have these events that come up and they trigger a stimuli in us. And then we have this perception, and that perception is how we interpret it. It's not how we see it, it's how we interpret it. So we kind of limit what we see based on what we give value to. And so that's what gets our attention.
Yeah.
Now, the values are kind of like the trunk of the tree. It's the foundation of everything that we do. And then from that stem these beliefs and concepts, or these thoughts that we've anchored in as truths. And there could be, like Steve Hardison said, he said there are multiple truths. You know, you could have, some person can have a truth, another can have a truth, and they can be in the same situation, but two different truths. Yeah. And so our beliefs kind of run that way. And then our thoughts are all of the predictions and possibilities that are around us that we draw from to create those beliefs. And then that creates our affect, which is our attitude and our way of being. And then that's what we feel. And then we think that affect is who we are and what's going on. And we operate from there. And so I just see this interplay between experience is all of it. It's the values, beliefs, thoughts, words that we speak are the fruits that go into the world, and those become reality. Yeah. And it all stems from that value. And so as I look at Phillip Weech, he's been masterful at not only holding on to his values, but creating beliefs that align with those values so that his way of being in the world is powerful. Whereas somebody could have the same values, but their beliefs around it say that the truth is that this is hard or this is challenging. And then that shows up in their world. Same value system, but different beliefs and different words and ways of being. Can you dive into this a little more with me? Like,
absolutely. This is a powerful infographic here. I love this. I would agree with everything you just said. I love too that little wind of the internal events coming in, kind of that wind from within us. So I spend a lot of time, like you said, just playing off of and dancing with you on what you said. I spend a lot of time on the tree, right? Like what's going on in my thoughts, because all of us will say things that we believe. Yeah. Like I believe in this, or I stand for this. But then our actual internal thoughts don't always spend a lot of time on those things, right? They'll spend time with fearful things or with other areas other than what we say verbally that we are, what we believe. Yeah. And so I spent a lot of time with myself really diving in through inquiry into, what's really the thought underlying my experience at all times. Huh. And then that's also the principal thing I work with my clients, is helping them to understand exactly the picture you put on there of all these things going on that make up our experience in life. But what's the part that we control, which is, the thought process is right here, our own internal context.
Right.
And for a lot of us, we don't really have the language. We don't really distinguish the tools to know how that works, right? It's like we feel sad, or, something goes wrong at work, right? We get yelled at, or a project goes south, and we take the blame for it, and we're feeling unhappy about that experience, right? But we don't always know how to get from that experience to, no, I'm a highly trained professional. I do a great job. I can handle this. This isn't a bad thing. It's hard to bridge the gap between what we're experiencing right now and the context we actually want.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of tools we can use to bridge that gap, to really understand what are the buttons and levers that work within our mind that create the experience, to help then craft that experience we want to create. One of those is that inquiry work. What's the thought that's underlying the experience I'm having right now? And one of the examples I'll use for that is, we've all learned how to walk at some point in life, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And at the time we learned to do that, it took a lot of effort. We watch little kids learn to walk. It takes months of intense effort, a lot of falling. But then we get to where we are today, and we don't really have to think about walking. We just think the thought, walk or move or go over there, and our body does all this stuff to do it.
Yeah, correct.
Because it's built these instructions over time of how to do it.
Right.
And our mind, when we're learning something new, will be firing on all cylinders to figure out how to do this new thing.
Right.
And it'll literally create the code or the instructions of how to do that. And once it does, it logs that into like the long-term memory bank, the subconscious, to where in the future it needs very little energy to run that same script. And then we go throughout our life creating all these scripts, all these new codes that create the operating system of our brain. And because it's kind of in that long-term memory bank in the subconscious part of our brain, it'll create the experiences we're having from the past, but we don't really know that's happening. And so it takes some relearning to figure out how our brain's doing that, to figure out, again, where's the levers, where's the buttons, why did I believe that? What is the actual belief down there, right? Yeah. And then we can start to play around with that and craft it with a new recipe.
Lisa Feldman Barrett, I'm totally into her right now and her work around emotions and thinking. And she talks about the remembered present. Like, what we do is we take the memories and experiences of the past, and we take the current situation and we plug the remembered past into the present. It becomes the remembered present. Yeah. So it becomes a repeat of what we've always done. We just plug in the memories right into that and meld them together. And then that becomes the remembered present. And so our presence isn't presence. It's a remembered presence. It's aligning it with what we think we know, which if your belief systems are off, you're going to just pull in those belief systems that are not useful to you and then put those in. If they're useful, then you'll plug those in. And so it really comes down to, like, what are you holding on to as truths that you're plugging into the remembered present?
Yes. And you can even add some extra firepower to that, in that it's not just the thoughts, but the thoughts we have also drive the chemical reactions occurring in our body, right? Yeah. So we start thinking thoughts, and if those are fearful thoughts, for example, then the glands of our body start to play off of that and create certain chemicals that go throughout our cells and our DNA that represent those thoughts. And then the thoughts experience the emotions that are coming from those chemicals.
Yeah. Isn't it
it's crazy? Like this cycle that just keeps feeding off each other until they're very aligned and create a state of being.
How do you stop that? So let's say you're having those emotions, right? Those things are coming, the fear, and then the body starts releasing those chemicals.
Yeah.
But you start to become aware of it. What is a tool to then go, okay, I'm feeling the fear. Now what? And then how do you switch that to the different emotion, or do you let it sit? What are some of your suggestions?
Man, I would, Philip, before you dive in, Ryan, give an example. Let's get you coached right here by Philip, because I want to listen in and like.
I was just wondering because and I was also thinking about other people. So the more this has come up for me, I feel a certain way where I've gone through an experience. Then the feelings of fear or judgment or something, you just start feeling it like well up, like bubble up. what are some ways? I'm trying to think of like an example that I've had recently, but
Yeah, just sit with it for a minute. Just find something recent that was like it's not how you wanted it to go, and it went that way.
I've done. I do sales for a living, so I do RV sales, and so you get rejected a lot.
Yeah.
But the majority of the time you get, you don't sell the majority of the time. But
So
for the percentage that you do, so they could
say no when you want them to buy something. Is that what you mean? Rejected?
Yeah. So that could be something like, somebody, that fear of rejection comes up, or you actually do get rejected, and then the judgment, the worry, am I a good salesman? That kind of thing come up.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you already kind of hinted at the first step, I think, for it, which is recognizing what's happening. When you're having an experience, instead of just having an experience, you've already talked about how you've broken that down, right? Okay, so my thoughts are this, the emotions are coming in. It's not what I want, but I know this is happening. Just recognizing what's happening for me is very powerful, because then it doesn't feel like I'm in the dark to what's happening in my life. I actually know there's some thoughts involved here, and that's eliciting certain emotions. So I can see what's happening under the hood, so to speak, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then let's just look at the language you're using, right? So when you talk about, how do you experience being rejected? What does it feel like?
For me, I already know I can close at a certain rate. So a lot of times when I focus on that,
Sure.
some of that goes away because I have experience behind being a salesperson. But I'll tell you, like, there's days where, you think, oh my gosh, this is I'm good at what I do, and here we go. And then they don't buy, or they say, they don't like me or my personality. I've had people say that, like, nah, I don't like you.
Yeah.
Then you start questioning like all of that stuff for a minute. Like, man, am I a good salesperson? Am I good with people? What could I have done differently?
Yeah.
All those things come up.
Gotcha. So take a look at this. The language you're using around that experience is that you're getting rejected, right?
Mm-hmm.
But is it really true that they're rejecting you?
Just rejecting what I have to offer, like, is maybe they might not like the product.
Yeah. It's like,
might
hey,
not be ready to buy today.
Yeah, I've got this great RV. They're interested. You talk about it with them. At the end of the day, they just decide, it's not for us. They just chose not to buy that product or service that you're offering. But have they really rejected you, the person? And if it feels like they're rejecting you, the person, it's going to be a different experience, right? Than if they just say, no thanks, I don't want this product.
If you could look at it like that too, like, I think that is a powerful tool right there. Is it? Yeah, like, never said I reject Ryan, says the camping gal. Hey, Jen. And I love her. But that's true. Yeah. That is true. Is that they never said that they didn't reject Ryan. It could be timing. It could be the RV. It could be that they're hungry, that they want to go grab something to eat and think about it, that they're not quick decision makers. There's a million different reasons what the truth could be. But again, like, we do that. I do that. I've done that plenty of times, where I start thinking about their judgments, and then I build that story, and then to go sometimes sit in my office, regroup, refrain.
Can I add a Philip into this? Is the story true? But then the emotions feel so true.
They do.
Yeah.
They really add a lot of the feeling to the experiences, those emotions that are feeding off of the thoughts that we're creating, right? That we're choosing to believe, rather. Because thoughts come where they come from. I don't know if we create thoughts, but we choose if we're going to spend time and attention on the thoughts that come, if we're going to award them with our attention, right?
Yeah.
And giving attention to thoughts is what makes us believe them and gives them power, and the emotions that come from that, really make it that emotional experience of it. So what was the question again? Sorry.
Well, no, I've got a thought here. So hang on to that, because
Yeah.
we have 50,000 to 70,000 thoughts a day. And this is my perspective on it. And you can help me with this, is that what the brain does is it's trying to predict what's going to happen. And so thoughts are possibilities or memories that we've stored as important that we can draw from as we make that prediction. And so with 50,000 to 70,000 of those running a day, with our beliefs, that would be too many. Without our beliefs, that would be too many to act on. And so our beliefs are what pull the thoughts into our belief system so that we know which ones to choose from. Because there's so much data in our world, it would be impossible to act on everything. We would be too overwhelmed. And so our beliefs tell us what to pay attention to, whatever those beliefs are, useful or unuseful.
Yeah.
And then that's where we start to behave from and have affect from and attitude from and mood from, is from those beliefs. Can you help me with that? Tell me.
Yeah,
tell me
no,
what
I
you
love
mean
that.
by that.
So, and in that term, your beliefs are the context you're creating, right? It's like, I'm going to choose that these are my beliefs. This is my belief system. And any thoughts that resonate and are in line with my belief system, I'm going to give attention to, right? And the ones that are out of sync with what I've chosen to believe, I'm going to ignore those thoughts.
Yeah. The context, right?
Exactly. That's right. And then the thoughts that align with your belief system, you run with those.
Yeah. Wow.
You build with those and become the building blocks for the day, the moment, the day, and the life that you're living.
Have you heard of echo chambers?
I'm not sure.
I'll give you the context from the way that I mean it as I use that word, that
We're
phrase.
not talking about like caves, right? You yelling.
Kind of. You do an echo, you throw out your voice and it comes back exactly as you put it out there.
Yeah.
And so an echo chamber is what we create around us that agrees with the way we believe the world. And so we align ourselves with things and people and content that aligns with what we think is the truth. And therefore, what gets fed back to us is what is in agreement with what we hold as true versus all of the possibilities. We tend to see what echoes with our internal dialogue.
Sounds like a Facebook algorithm.
Yeah, it really does, huh? Can you talk about that, Ryan?
Well, I've noticed that's true for me. Like my brain will go support. I'll think one way, and then I'll search for all the ways that will make me right. And then Facebook does that too, where you can hop on somebody's page, you can like it, comment, and all of a sudden you start seeing their content. So you can curate the experience that you want to have because of their algorithms. I think that's a very similar thought to what you were talking about.
Yeah, Facebook will agree with you and bring you what is in alignment with what you put out there. And so kind of like life does. It's phenomenal.
Yeah. It's like the picture you had up too, right? There's that layer of the sun's shining and certain things are getting through and certain things aren't.
Yeah.
And even what is getting through is through the context you're creating, right?
Yeah.
So where your attention is on when you put your attention on certain thoughts, not only are you calling those vibrations of energy, you're putting those out into the world, you're getting those back, like you said, but you've got that lens on that sees the world through how you're thinking about it.
Yeah,
So
kind of
actually, that's going to show up
SPF.
to things.
It's your SPF. What could we make up for SPF, right? It's that blocking. You only see what you want to see that is in alignment with what you hold as true.
That's right.
It's like an SPF.
And then if you've got your time and attention spent on thoughts that aren't truly what you're intentionally wanting to create, that's what you'll be calling to yourself all the time. So whenever I have experiences that aren't how I want them to be, it's kind of like my own check engine light for myself, right? It's like, oh, there's that check engine light again. Why am I having this experience that I don't want? And I trust that I'm the creator of this, even if I don't want to believe that maybe because it's not a good experience. But then I can think, what is the thought that I'm giving my time and attention to that may be out of line with my belief system? And if I can find that thought, then I'm really ahead of the game on being able to replace it with something different. I can forgive myself for going down that path and declare my new truth for that, and then go forward with that new truth planted.
Okay. Wow. You're hitting on some things that people might not be aware of as they haven't had the teaching around it. Because you're talking about forgiving the judgments, you're talking about the new truths, you're talking about the declarations. And I'm going to slow you down and have you give some context to these. The judgments, let's start with the judgments, because you have these perceptions of this way of being, and then you judge the world from there. Can you speak to that and then go into the forgiving and then into the new truths?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep.
So a common one for me, and I want to get this practical. Here's a real example, because concepts have real power when we get them into the details of our lives, right? So we can talk about a non-useful listening or a non-useful way of being, and it doesn't mean much until we can show it. So for me personally, I've grown up with a listening of myself, a thought that was always saying, Phil, you've got to stay busy with good things all the time, or else you're not progressing, right? And it wasn't like you can do this, or if you want to, you can do that. It was like you need to, you have to, you should. That was the language that was going on in my mind. Yeah, go for it.
Can I highlight that as a belief? Underneath that is a value. What is the value underneath? This is how I need to show up. Because the belief is the truth that says this is how it operates, right?
Yeah.
But there's a value under that that's still present, but you've had a transformation around that. What would that be?
Well, the value was that I needed to be different than I was, or that I didn't have a choice in the matter. And I don't know if this is what you were meaning by it, but my experience of what you're saying with the value
this is perfect.
The way I experienced it was I needed to be different than I was.
Yep.
I needed to do things that, whether I wanted to or not, this is what I needed to do.
Yeah.
And anytime we feel like we need to do something, we should do something, we have to do something, there's almost, for me, there's judgment inherent in those words that says, you've got to do this. There's no other option. The other option is really bad. And so, something good versus something bad, the only option is the good thing. We don't want what's bad. And then you feel like you have no choice because there's only one option. You've got to do this. And what do we as humans do when we feel like there's only one option? We're going to rebel against that.
Fight or flight.
Yep. Honey badger. That's
Even
where the
if
honey
it's
badger comes out.
Yeah. Even if it's what we want to do, we're not going to do that because we feel like we're forced into it.
Yeah.
And I was forcing myself into this way of seeing the world by the language I was using and my experience of that language. The have to do it, the should do it, the need to do it. And so something that really worked for me to undo that, to unwind it, was doing some meditation around the thought, there's nothing I have to do. There's no way I have to be. I'm perfectly me just the way I am. And it really seemed foreign. The first time I read that sentence that way and had the invitation to meditate on that, it really seemed foreign to me because I didn't experience life there were things I didn't have to do. I felt like I did have to do all these things. I had children to provide for and a wife, had a home to take care of. I had a job I had to have. I had to do all these things. And I felt like I had to do them. And my whole life was these things that I had to do. It's like it was expected of me. And I was creating that myself. And so meditating on this new possibility that there's nothing I have to do. There's not a single thing in the world that I need to do. And spending some time and attention on that thought really created a space or a clearing for me to just kind of be present and just exist with nothing pulling me or pushing me. And it wasn't anything out there. It was myself. It just seemed like it was external things, right? I could say it was my religion or my parents or those around me, my coaches, whatever. But really, it was my own experience of that, of creating those things. So meditating on the possibility that there was nothing I have to do and there's nothing I need to be, doing that long enough created a space just to exist and just to be me. And free of the judgment of what I needed to be or should be, came forth the desire of what I actually wanted in my life for myself. And I found that most of the things that I truly wanted from that space were the same things I was already involved in for the most part, but the experience was completely different because there was no judgment involved. And anytime I get back to a place where I have to be a certain way, getting ready for today's podcast, right?
Yeah.
Thoughts were coming. Hey, I need to show up a certain way to impress people, right? I really want to impress Nick and Ryan and anybody that watches this. And
Keep
then,
going. We're almost there.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Good.
Impressed, and you're right. You're coming up.
Pushing
Can't
the
wait.
edges,
About to break
man.
through. Here we go. But from that, it's a stressful experience with life, right? Like we're pressing, we're stressed, we're not enjoying it. And so I went back to, there's no way I need to be except just like me. The authentic me is more than enough. And when I can get back to that place, it resonates with who I am and the desires that I have. And then I'm able to take actions from that state of being that are very powerful, that break through the constraints of the past, that get me new things that I haven't been able to have access to before.
This is an opportunity here. When you step into being you, you get a chance to really look at everything else that you're involved in and to decide from that space of being you what aligns for you, because there might be a group, a project, a thing that you align with, that your way of being you aligns with that, so you align yourself with it. And if not, then you pull back and you do the things that do align with that. And there's no right or wrong in that decision, because you're being you authentically.
Yeah.
And then you're just moving yourself to what aligns with that.
Exactly. Yeah. And everyone I talk to, just, you can think about it yourselves, right? Would you rather be the authentic you? And anyone listening to this podcast, do the same thing. Would you rather be the authentic you, being comfortable in your own skin, living the life that you've authored, or a life that you think other people want you to live? Which just feels more comfortable? Which feels more empowering and authentic to you? Like, which feels better?
Okay, so this is our chance for coaching. I'm
There
ready
you
to
go.
be coached. You ready?
All right.
Because
Yeah.
this is a battle that I'm having within the last 2 weeks.
Okay, let's hear it.
Specifically. Okay, so looking at the message of the giants and the smalls, and the idea of what is quote unquote acceptable and what is quote unquote not acceptable, unacceptable. I'll get the word eventually.
Sure.
But the idea of being me within the confines of society's acceptance. Does that make sense? That if I am to bring this message into certain environments, that there will be tolerance for certain behaviors and ways of being, and a non-tolerance for other ways of being. And so finding a balance between being me, the way I am me, and the alignment with that ethos of society. Does that make sense? The ethics of society.
Sure.
This is where I could use some really deep coaching, I think, to get vulnerable.
Yeah, good. So one of my first questions that come to mind would be, how do you define what society is okay with for you? Because anything that you perceive as a rejection by society or an acceptance by society, remember that who's creating that experience? Do we really know what society thinks?
No, it's my projection based on the movie screen I'm playing in my life.
Yeah. So you might do a little inventory of, what do I feel like society is okay with and what are they not? And then why am I creating those constraints? Are those the constraints or restraints that I want? Right. And even more authentic than that is, why am I worried about what society thinks about me, when really my own internal truth is going to be the best guiding light for my life? Do you think Thomas Edison was looking around thinking, what does the society think is right or wrong here? He was a giant of a person.
Yeah.
Thank goodness he didn't, or this lighting would be like this.
Yeah. people in history that we look up to, and how very unpopular they were at different parts of their lives. A lot of people don't even get the recognition they're due until after they're gone, So if we just live a life that we think is in line with what society wants of us, it's not authentic. We're not going to have the breakthroughs. We're not going to have the impact that we really want. Our song that's unique to us will never get sung if we're living a life based on what others want us to live.
Yeah, man, this is impactful right now. And just because it hits so close to home right now, and I find myself, there's a book I read that talks about, I'll use the word here, prostituting yourself out to the cause, right? In a way, you sell yourself to the thing, whatever it is. Like I sell myself to my career, and in exchange for my time, I get paid money. No
Yeah.
different from prostitution, right? And so the idea here is that who I am authentically, being that within the confines that I've established, I'm hearing this, that I've established as what I think society wants.
Yeah.
And then trying to balance that is almost a nightmare. It's like
Yeah.
I don't swear. I love to swear. I don't swear on shows because that might offend somebody and keep them from coming through, and so I pull back. I find myself pulling back and not being me authentically, in the fear that I might cause some disrupt over in some other space.
Sure.
And yeah.
So where in your life, Nick, do you feel like society wants something from you and it's not what you want?
Mm.
There's something there because you were
Yeah,
able to
Nick.
leverage it. So.
Yeah.
And it may not be for this call, but I mean, there could be
Well,
something.
no, and I look at, well, as an example, as the giants and the smalls, the message of that and what it's evolved into and how
Yeah.
it's transformed over the past. I mean, we look at the last year and how much things have shifted inside of the giants and the smalls and where we're going and what we want to go into schools. So I think,
Yeah.
if I were to swear in front of children, that the principals probably wouldn't like that, right? So I hold back in my languaging there in context of the group that I'm talking to or speaking with, which I think is emotional intelligence. That's knowing where to be, to share that authenticity and where not to, right?
Yeah.
Well, so yeah, go ahead.
I think it's great too to look for cues and data points in the world around us. And as we're again, it's just our interpretation
Right.
of the world around us. But in the example of, they say, hey, Nick, don't swear in front of the kids.
Yeah.
But you want to be authentic and have a powerful experience with them.
Yeah.
So you might think, okay, I can't swear in front of the kids. That feels like you don't have much choice in the matter.
Yeah.
But you can ask yourself, well, what if I want to honor the principal and the children and maybe look at, is there a better way to impact them without swearing? So I can honor the principal, I can honor the kids and myself. And is there something different I want to do in how I speak to them? Is there a more powerful way of language I could do that with?
This is beautiful because this is what we're adapting into right now.
Reading Ryan's comment.
Let's hear on the chest or something like that. So we actually had, on our first school visit, we had a principal ask us, is that going to be an issue? Because in one of my videos, I did swear, and she happened to see that video, and she said, is that going to be an issue? And we said, absolutely not. So within the confines of that, and it's not confines as though it's some restriction, it's just a respect for the environment that I'm not going to take my language into the kids as it doesn't really fit there. That's emotional intelligence saying,
very good.
I have another way that I can still be authentic without having to do that.
Yeah.
Right. So there's no loss of me in that.
That's right.
It's a sacrificing of that little bit so that I can honor those kids and still be me.
Right. And your inner voice is probably saying, I want to impact these children in a powerful way so they can live giant lives, right?
Right.
So thinking of, okay, so they don't want me to swear, or I don't, I may want to swear and they don't want me to. What's the language of the children that would be impactful to them? Maybe we could spend time on what's the new lingo they're using so that when you say a certain word that means something to them, that's like a fad word or whatever,
right,
you really endear yourself to them because that's the word that means something to them, right? But if we're stuck in the land of, I can't swear, this isn't cool.
That's not, like this,
But
that's
more
not
how
fair.
can I serve them?
Right.
So it's
Don't
changing.
tell me what to do, right?
Yeah. So it's, how do I serve the children? What language could I use that would be most powerful to their ears? Like it's taking it from where you're at, Nick, to their world. What is the world according to them? What language means certain things to them?
I love that.
What new lingo can I learn that resonates with children in today's world right now that I could work into what I'm using in my material so it really resonates with them?
So the idea of where do I meet people where they are from their understanding and speak to them from their language and their point of view in a way that honors them. And with our message, we're trying to keep it as broad as possible So it incorporates people from all backgrounds because we want to transcend religion, politics,
Exactly.
sexuality, and all these things. So there's this almost this balancing of I will meet you where you are,
Yep.
but almost staying somewhat neutral. Is that even a possibility to stay neutral?
Well, you create what neutral is. I mean, you're
Okay.
the one that distinguishes that and defines it. So
Huh.
yes, you can if that's what you want.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah, way to turn that back around on me.
But
I
the
love it.
experience is completely different if it's you go into it, I can't do something versus, well, this is what I do want to accomplish. How can I do that? It's like,
How
where's the
can I?
attention at? Yeah.
How can I? Right?
Yes.
That's an expansive question right there. That is beautiful.
And
Ryan,
if
what do you? Yeah, go
can I
ahead.
dance with Ryan on that too? I kind of want to go back to his sales example before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh, boy.
I liked it when the spotlight was on Nick. This was
get
funner for me.
coached, Ryan. Get coached. Let's hear it.
So a possibility here is that you never feel that disgruntled feeling when someone says no to a sell, right? Wouldn't that be a great possibility to live into?
Sounds like an amazing possibility.
You know, whether they buy from you or not, you feel this just as great after that interaction. Wouldn't that be a great possibility to create, right?
Yes.
And it's when I talk about with sales organizations all the time is what if you could be the same person at the same state of being after a yes as you are from a no and a no from a yes, right? Mm-hmm. So it comes down to what are you wanting to accomplish in an exchange with a potential customer? Is it that you want them to buy, or is it that you want to serve them to the best of your ability?
I like the serving.
Yeah. And if serving them means that they don't buy from you because you've given them all the facts and figures and all the ins and outs, and at the end of the day, they just decide it's not a good fit, don't you want that they not buy something that they, wouldn't benefit their life?
Yes.
And you being that, don't you think people that do want to buy
this
are
is
going to really love working with
you? Badgering the witness.
Yeah, leading questions are my specialty.
I like it. Keep going. This is great.
But from that experience, if you wanting to serve them, if serving them means you actually say, hey, based on what you're saying, this may not be right for you, think about the experience they're going to take away from being with you and what they're going to say to their friends about this amazing guy named Ryan that works at this RV place and how he was no pressure. He actually had their best interest in mind. And you create a life of people sharing this about you, that you're authentically caring about them and serving them. And pretty soon you're not even out there selling. People are coming to you ready to buy because of the reputation you've built of who you're being. You're not out there to get a sale. You're out there to serve people. And people that are ready to buy love to work with people that are going to serve them. And if you could have that to where, again, you spend time with someone and they say, I'm not ready to buy, and you can see that's really not a good fit for them, you're going to come out of that experience authentically feeling good for the day, not feeling like you did something out of sync with your values just to get money from it. And it'll make you a more powerful salesperson all at the same time, because again, you're being authentic to what people want and what you want, and that resonates, and you'll have more sales than you could ever imagine. Building a career on that. And I guarantee you've already got that built in to a great degree. Just knowing who you are, the type of person you like to be. I guarantee that's already a big part of what you're doing. But anywhere it's not that, anywhere you do feel some type of grinding of the gears in your sales experience on the job, that's where you might inquire into the thoughts that you're believing that aren't in line with the value system, right? Or the thoughts that you don't realize you believe, and they're not in line with your value system.
That can be your checklist as those emotions come up. Then you can say, okay, where am I out of alignment in that?
Yeah, you got your belief and values, like Nick was saying. And where is it that in that moment or that experience, you weren't actually spending your time and attention on thoughts that were in line with your belief system? Because if you can notice that and dig into it, you'll be able to change it. And then your experiences will represent your values all the time.
Man, you are brushing up against integrity. We talked about this morning.
It's everything, right?
Yeah, it is. And the definition of integrity as we understand it collectively is different from what you and I talked about this morning and the way I've learned it just recently.
Okay.
And can you dive into what integrity means for you and how you define it?
Yeah. So integrity for me is doing what I say I will do every time, to the degree I said it would be done, to the whatever expectation came along with that commitment that I made, on time, ready to go, no doubt it's going to happen. And because we're human and we're not going to be perfect in that integrity, right? We can distinguish a term that is honoring our word. So when we're not keeping our word, we can always honor our word, which means that before we give our word, we do a cost benefit to make sure we truly can give our word. Have I already dedicated that time to somebody else? And so when I say I'm going to do that or be there, I've already committed that time elsewhere. I'd be out of integrity just giving my word to you if I already said I'm going to be with somebody else during that time, right?
Yeah.
So you do a cost benefit before you give your word to make sure that you can give your word. And then once you've said that, it becomes the law. It is so. It's like a fact. And you will do anything it takes to be your word. And if you ever find yourself out of integrity with what you said you would do, meaning you said you'd do something and now you know it's not going to happen like you said it would be done.
Yep.
The moment you know that, you contact the person you gave your word to and you let them know what's going to happen. You clean it up with them. If you being out of integrity is going to create an issue for them, you want to do what you can to clean that up. And once you've done all that work, you can then repromise if you want, if it makes sense to do so, come up with a new agreement, etc.
You can even, in a case, rescind the original agreement.
You can, if they agree to it. Yeah.
Right. If there's an agreement. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So it's not a shameful thing or a right or wrong thing as you're describing it. It's just recognizing, Townsend Warlaw calls it the delta, the difference between your word and what shows up in your world.
Yeah. Very cool.
The delta, right? And so integrity is nothing more than the difference between your word and what is.
Yep. And there's nothing wrong if it's not there, like we talked about. It's just if you want your life to work in the areas that you said you want it to work.
Yeah.
Right. I said I'd do this and I didn't do it. There won't be workability there. Right. So if you want your life to work, have integrity. And if you don't have integrity, but there's no right or wrong to it. It's what you want. And the moment we bring, morality into it and we judge ourselves when we're not in integrity, it's going to have this self-defeating experience of who we're being versus what do I want to have?
So morals, you're talking about morals and ethics, morals being internal drivers, right? Our moods towards certain things, and ethics being a collective mood towards something.
Sure. Yeah.
Ethics tends to deal with the whole, the community, and morals is internal. It's our mood toward that.
Yes.
So there's this distinction between integrity, morality, and ethics.
Yeah.
And so integrity and morality, they're two distinct things. They are not the same. I think of the idea that somebody could be, I won't even bring up an example because it would be, for me, inappropriate, but they could be doing a certain thing that another might call immoral.
Sure.
But really it becomes a case of when another person is judging it, it becomes unethical is what it would be called, because that person, they might feel a mood toward that is in alignment with who they're being. And so they are in integrity and they are in morality, but they might not be ethical. Does that make sense?
Oh, it does.
Yeah,
it does. And they might cross that ethical boundary as soon as they, again, have a judgment towards somebody else. And especially if they act on that judgment, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like they're getting out of their own business and now we're living in somebody else's business.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I think your life should be like this.
Wow.
And as long as I'm over there, like Byron Katie likes to say, it's like, who's running our own life?
Yeah, I'm guilty of that. I've done that to people where I put my morality on them as though it needs to be their morality.
Yeah.
And then it creates that space of there's no space, that space of no space.
So this is kind of fun. So I don't know if it's immoral to be unethical, but it's definitely not integrity.
Yeah.
It's like if I've committed to live my life and now I'm trying to influence somebody else's life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm not living my own. So I'm out of integrity with my life, living my life.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. So if you're living somebody else's life, you're not living your own life. So your word is no longer about what you're creating. Your word is about what they're creating. And how could you ever have any integrity with what another person creates?
Yeah. unless I say my life is about influence, making other people do things, then I'm in integrity, but now I'm
Right,
out of
right.
ethics.
And a
But
control.
none of us say that. None of us would consciously say, I want to control somebody else.
Right, right.
We don't want to control our own life, our own experience, live a life that we've authored.
Yep.
So anytime we're not that, meaning we're influencing or getting into somebody else's life, we're
Yep.
out of integrity with that core that is almost universally accepted, that we want to live our own unique, authentic life.
Right.
And then we wonder why we get upset when we're judging other people. Not always realizing we're judging them in the moment, but
and it really is our judgments that we're up against. It's our own judgment. It's not who they're being. It's our judgment of who we think they're being.
That's right.
And it's that's in the way, not the way they're being, because it's like the events and the image. The event is the event. That person being the way they are is the way they are. It's just an event, and events are neutral. They're occurrences.
Yep.
And our interpretation becomes the judgment of it. And then that bounces against our beliefs and values and morals. And then when we put it over there, it becomes an ethics issue.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And an out of integrity issue, because now we're putting it over there like they need to be like what we have projecting in our mind.
Yep. Because there's a societal acceptance that we don't, tell other people what to do. We tell ourselves what to do. We don't want to be hypocritical.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's where I cross the line sometimes, is I think I have a say in somebody else's life.
Welcome to the club, my friend.
Yeah.
There's a lot of members.
Welcome to the club. I didn't even know there was a club. I'm excited.
You're welcome now.
Put the badge on.
Yeah.
Wow.
But there's a lot of, for all of us to some degree, there's a lot of unwanted experiences in our lives from simply judging other people. We see how they're living and we think they should be living like this, and they're not one and the same. And when they're not one and the same, there's going to be suffering. It's not the suffering of the person we're judging, it's our own self.
Right.
Every single time. And that doesn't mean we can't want things for other people, that we can't want happiness for them.
Yeah.
But there's a big difference between expecting them to be a certain way and wanting them to be happy. And part of wanting other people to be happy is allowing them to live the life that's authentic to them, and allowing myself to live a life that's authentic to me.
And allowing space for those to be in different alignments. There is no out of integrityness in that. When they are being them fully, they're in 100% integrity with themselves. When I'm doing that over here, that's in integrity. And together that might not mix. They might be going in different directions, but still in alignment.
Yeah. And in that view, I love to use the distinction of, it's like a beautiful canvas on a wall, right? A tapestry where you've got different colors and you put them all together and they make this beautiful piece of artwork.
Yep.
I don't see it as, if you have a belief system that's different than mine, that they grind gears.
Right. Yeah, okay.
I see it that we're adding a great amount, that we're adding color and different notes to music, different color to artwork. We're combining our differences to create this beautiful piece of
still
art
beautiful.
in the world.
Maybe even more beautiful in that regard.
Correct. Because of the authenticity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't even want to sit here and judge you on if you're being authentic to yourself or not, because I don't know, right? It's like, oh, you say you're about this, but then I see you do this, and I'm going to judge that that's an out of integrity. No, I just want to be there for you, loving you as a human being. And I guarantee if everyone on this earth was simply loving and serving each other, being authentic to ourselves and allowing others to be how they are being, we wouldn't have any of the wars that we have. We wouldn't have the economic tumult that we have going on. We wouldn't have even all the diseases going on, in my opinion, because we wouldn't have so much stress going on and anxiety going on in the world. If we could just stay in our own lives, loving and serving others and living our authentic selves, we'd have it made. And we can have that. Every one of us can.
I believe that.
And it takes getting it from the contextual realm of what we're talking about to where does it show up that we're not that, right? Where do I judge that someone else has a presidential candidate they're going for that's not mine, right?
Yeah.
And where do I experience that as jarring?
Yeah. Or the upset. Follow the upset. Where does the upset come up in you? Man, anytime I look at another person and I think they should be something, anything,
Yeah.
then there's not no issue but my judgment.
Yeah. Anytime they should be something, I will be unhappy.
Yeah,
At least
wow.
that's how it works for me.
Yeah.
Anytime I think someone should be something different, I will be unhappy every time.
This kind of went away I didn't really expect, so I appreciate it. This is awesome.
Beauty of conversation, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they're just like life. It evolves the way it evolves, and it's beautiful. Only always, though.
I judged you as a CPA based on my judgments on my dad, and you're not.
Yeah.
You're not my dad at all.
I might have been
Amazing.
until about 9 months ago, but yeah.
Some CPAs can be amazing. Just changed my whole belief system, Philip.
Every other CPA
Everything I've ever known.
Yeah, one of the greatest compliments Steve Hardison ever gave me was he said, "I can't believe you were ever a CPA. You just don't seem like a CPA." And that's nothing against CPAs, but it was all completely in line with what I was then creating when he said that. It was perfectly in line with what I was creating. So
there's nothing wrong with you CPAs out there. You're doing great.
We still love you.
I was a CPA until I chose not to be anymore, and then I wasn't. And so that made all the difference.
What other piece of wisdom, as we get toward the end of this, would you share for anybody starting their journey, or even if you could go back to the very beginning and give yourself one piece of wisdom?
Yeah.
What would you share?
I'd probably highlight what we've already been talking about, which is when each of us receives a thought or an impression or an idea that really seems to resonate with our internal desire, who we are, notice that you're going to have a bunch of reasons and considerations to go against that later, right? Fear will come in. And I'll give a perfect example. 9 months ago, when I was a CPA, and one night I received an idea that just came so clearly. It was just as clear as any thought I'd ever had before, which was, Phil, why don't you go look into being a coach? And I was so excited about it. It resonated so much that I stayed up all night getting online and Googling, what is a coach? What is a personal development coach? Because I had no idea. I had no idea what it was like, the economics around it, what they do, if there were different types. I didn't know, right?
Yeah.
And there was lots of fearful thoughts that came in from that. Like, well, how long does this take? You've already got a career. What will it do to your income? Will you even be good at it? What if you fail? All those things could have distracted me from that original prompting, that original idea that came, that resonated. So if there was one piece of advice I would give, is for each of us, when we feel like we've really received some inspiration, an aha moment for us, document it, share it with others, make it be something important, so that when the other thoughts that would go against that come to us, they don't hold sway. They don't take over and sabotage that original thought. Because if we can stay true to the inspiration each of us receives, even in the face of adversity to that, then we will live a life that's authentic to us. We will have a grand adventure, and it won't always be easy. It might rarely be easy, but it will absolutely be fun, exciting, and fulfilling to us. And I would rather have a life that's fulfilling and one really that's just real life versus existing being safe.
Man, phenomenal. Ryan, other thoughts?
I like how Alex just changed the definition of what a CPA is, and so did look at that. There's another one: courageous, passionate, authentic.
I'll take that.
Connection,
Absolutely.
Providence, adventure.
Maybe you still are a CPA.
I'll add that to my certificate. Just don't tell me.
I too didn't know exactly where this conversation was going to go, but it went exactly where it needed to go. And the value that I just got, Philip, from you, and I appreciate that so much, is going to transform. I take that. I receive that. I appreciate that. I'm going to use that in my personal life and in my career, and be more conscious of what I'm feeling, what I'm doing, how I'm being, and let go of those judgments, and stay true to that core, which is the service that I want to provide for others, and watch the amazingness that happens from Ryan doing Ryan things, which is really you nailed it. That's what I like. That's where Ryan thrives, is in the service of others. So thank you for seeing that in me and helping me to see what I was doing and how I was being, and giving me some tools to change that. So thank you.
Absolutely. It's easy to see. It shows up quite matter-of-factly about you.
Thank you.
Tell me about this. After
Yes.
that, tell me about that.
Oh.
Byron Katie.
I keep hiding it.
Ryan, stop it. What are you doing? Yeah.
So the Byron Katie event is an event we're putting together with Katie for next year. It's going to be October 2022, and it's going to be her first 9-day School for the Work live event, and it'll be in Scottsdale, Arizona. And we're helping her to kind of create the setup there at the hotel so that her group can come in and put that on, so that upwards of 300 plus people can experience really what we've been talking about today, which is taking a moment to slow down and really do some inquiry work to figure out what are the thoughts and the beliefs that have been shaping the lives we've been living, without us slowing down to really be able to see it. It's like we've been going through life so fast we don't see the scenery on the side of the road. It just keeps passing in a blur, right? The Katie event is going to help us to slow down and see the lives we've been creating via the thoughts that we've been thinking and believing. And we'll notice in that event that we have been believing many things that we didn't think were intentionally a part of our belief system. And through the way that only Katie can, she'll help us to see those things we haven't seen, so that we can then have the choice to change it, to identify where have I been living out of integrity with where I say I want to be living. Where have I not been present? Where have I not been truthful? Where have I been judging others when I say that I'm not? Where have I been judging myself when I say that I haven't been doing it? And any experience that we have not been enjoying in our life that's persisting, if we'll take those experiences that we don't want anymore to that event with Katie, through the work that she has created and will take us through, every one of those non-useful ways of being, those experiences we don't want, they will be dissolved. She'll teach us how to do it. And then we'll be able to live a life that is free to be, free of all the pulls and the tugs. And it'll be a life that we're taking a stand for.
That's beautiful.
So whoever's not a part of that, we have you can friend me on Facebook, and we've got a group page that's keeping everybody updated on the details of it. As soon as we know the exact dates in October of next year, the cost and the exact location, that'll all be out there. And everybody that's in that group will have a first chance to sign up before it fills up.
I propose 10/10, 2022.
10/10?
Yeah.
That could end up working out. I think that's the secondary dates, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I'll take that under advisement there, Nick.
You know, what's interesting too is that gives people a chance, like the lead up time gives them a chance to create being there. And so that they can decide, hey, yep, I am going, and not how, and then figure out like, okay, well, how can I go? What can I do?
Exactly.
The possibility thinking of creating that, because it's not free.
And anybody that hasn't heard about Byron Katie, or has but wants to know more, her website is thework.com. She has live free events online you can go sign in for every week to see the work in action, and it is life-changing. And then as you see that, just imagine 9 full days apart from the world just working on stuff like that.
Beautiful. Philip, how do people find you if they want to have a conversation with you?
So I'm on Facebook, just Phillip Weech, but I've also got a website. It's thebestpersonalcoach.com. So if you go to that website, you can get my email and find me that way, and I can hook you up with whatever information you're wanting to get around that or other things.
Hi, Capri.
She's back.
Hey,
bestpersonalcoach.com. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. This is phenomenal. Thank you so much. You've added some additional views to views that I've been developing, just learning about and growing into. And so I just appreciate who you be in the world. You just have a way of showing up that's powerful. I haven't even known you that long in this reality. It's just but it feels like years of time.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
thank you for who
likewise.
you've been.
Seems like we've been brothers for a long time already.
Maybe we have. Yeah.
I believe it.
Yeah. Well, good. Anything else you want to say?
No, just thank you for this experience, and you've both influenced my life through this hour plus together, right? I especially like the graphic you came up with. Hopefully that's shared in the tribe. Is that something we all have access to?
I haven't yet. I shared it in the Sum Gigante group, which is the private group for coaching.
Gotcha.
And so, yeah, I would be happy to share that there in the tribe. I'll do that today after the show.
I will push people to the tribe just for that alone, so they can see that, because that is a great way to get, a concept around what we're talking about.
Yeah, perfect.
Better. And I love what you said about beliefs too. And that word doesn't always show up a lot in my vocabulary. So I'm grateful you introduced that. At least in coaching, it doesn't show up a lot, but I like how you distinguish that. So
yeah, thank you. Ryan, any other thoughts from you?
Just grateful for all the giants that are out there being and learning and waking up to their giant potential and seeing this and getting the opportunity. If you are at home, I don't know that at first you might not know what an amazing opportunity this is to be around a giant like Philip and to be able to be coached and walk through his way of being and understand maybe the components of how you're being and how to change that for the better. And when it's not better, to know how to change that as well. And I just appreciate all the giants that have commented and shown up and that are here, that have that personal inner commitment to be whatever it is you want to be. Keep doing that. Keep showing up for yourself, because you're worth it. You're worthy, and you can be, do, or have anything you want. So thank you, Philip, for your time. I appreciate you, man.
Absolutely. Love you both. Thank you for this.
You too.
Love you too.
For those that are watching,
what a league of giants, man.
Oh man, we're just getting started.
Great people.
And thank you. For those that are watching, keep doing giant things. Smash the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, ding the bell, right? So that you get more videos like this, because we go live every week. We have lives during the week. We have coaching videos that'll be coming online, mastermind classes. You want to be informed on all of it. So hit the subscribe button so you can be in touch with us, and go make it a giant day. And we'll see you in the next video.
Love you too.
Do it.